We started this chapter working on adding and subtracting fractions, and we started with some basics today with the groups. For example, it might have been like 5/16 plus 3/16 equals, and we talked about the fact that you have to have a common denominator to add, because it's just like adding tiles. And if you had 1/16 tiles, it'd be like adding 5 of those to 3 of those, and that would give you would just add the numbers on the top, the numerators, and you would get 8/16. We also talked then about, once we got our answer, putting it in simplest form. And so kind of a review from last chapter, we would list the factors, and we would look for the greatest common factor, the GCF. We would find 8, and we would divide both the numerator and denominator by 8, and so we would get 1/2. So the correct answer then of 5/16 plus 3/16 would be 1/2. Next today, we kicked it up a notch, as we say, and talked about, well, what if we don't have a common denominator when we try to add? So for example, we might have 1/4 plus 1/2. And initially, of course, a lot of the kids tried to add 4 to 2 and get 2/6. But we talked about the fact that it's like if you're working with tiles again, fraction tiles, and you had one 1/4 tile and one 1/2 tile, you can't add them together if it's not the same type of tile. So we've got to find that common denominator. And usually in 4th grade, that common denominator is going to be one of the two fractions. And so if we can get a 4 on the bottom here, then we can add them. And so again, it's the same thing, making equivalent fractions. We take the top and the bottom by 2, because that's the same as 2/2, which is the same as 1. And when we multiply, we get 2/4. And now we can add 1/4 plus 2/4 equals 3/4. And we talked today another thing about if the numerator and denominator are only separated by 1, chances are it's in simplest form. In fact, I tried to think of an example where it wasn't, and I couldn't. And I didn't go through every number 1 to 100, but maybe there is something somewhere where they're not. But I think generally, if you see they're 1 apart, they're probably in simplest form. And then it worked the exact same way with subtraction. If we had 7/8 minus 1/4, we do the same thing about getting a common denominator on the bottom, and 8 would be the common denominator, so we take it times 2, and this would be 2/8. So what we would have is 7/8 minus 2/8, and that would equal 5/8. If it wasn't simplest form, we'd put it in simplest form. And that's what we talked about today in class.